Yo, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think this nigga Von was walking around obsessed with murder.
He went all in with scared of Von. On my mama. All in with scared of Von. They was calling him, they labeled the man a serial killer.
Let's talk bodies, I got seven.
If you run up on me, I will shoot you. No problem. I will fucking shoot you.
He probably was waking up thinking about Duck, Tuka, all his ops on 63rd. Like, bro, he was thinking about it daily.
We live in an era where if you snitch on your fellow gang members in court, you're labeled a rat. But if you rap about how you and your gun-toting best friend drilled ops, you're classified a real gangster. 4 weeks ago, Marcus Move Up Smart, Christopher C. Thank Thomas, Kenneth Kenny Mac Robertson, Charles C. Murder Liggins, Carlos Loss Offord, and Ralph T.Z. Turpin were all found guilty for the murder of Carlton Wakely, otherwise known as FBG Duck. As surveillance footage shows 4 O-block shooters racing down the stairway in Parkway Gardens, jumping into a black Ford Fusion and a Chrysler 300, rushing to the Gold Coast and assassinating gangster disciple FBG Duck, all at the request of King Von, who placed a $100,000 bounty. But before all the success King Von witnessed in his short reign in the rap game, he was a bloodthirsty demon, calling upon his fellow gang members to accompany him on several drills.
He talking about we gone. He got on the motherfucking book bag and a little ID around his neck, like he going to. He trying to go nail something early. Bro, Vaughn, get out my face, bro.
And no other BD would thread down this dark road with King Von besides T-Roy, as Chicago PD has released several documents linking King Von and T-Roy to countless murders across the city of Chicago, which King Von would later use as a reference in his dark, ominous tracks.
I don't give a fuck, even if it rain, we coming through.
So, allow me to take you down Chicago's grimiest street tales of how 2 best friends found solace in drilling together and taunting deceased ops on Twitter. This is the story of King Von, T-Roy, and all their victims. Every driller has an overarching motive on why they pulled the trigger in an attempt to end a life. Whether it's hatred for their ops, seeking revenge for a friend they had lost, or collecting a bounty that was put on somebody's head. But for King Von, it was revenge, and I have a feeling it all started in 2011. Long before King Von claimed O-Block, which was known as Wick City at the time, he was gangbanging with Killer Ward, a GD set located on 75th and 81st Horn Street in Ashland, which he confirmed on his song of LeVon James, Don't Wanna Be Me.
Grew up 78 from my basement. We moved to Parkway, it was gated.
Yes, King Von grew up a gangster disciple before moving to Parkway Gardens and gangbanging with the BDs.
Right now I'm in an area called Killer Ward. That's where I grew up at. It's the area, so this played a big part of my life. I grew up here being bad, gang banging around here.
This is a particular incident FBG Duck and various other GDs have referenced on multiple occasions.
Especially Von. He know he got his beat. Tuga. He got his beat on the bus. Your ass used to hang with us on Tuga. He flipped because your ass was scared. But on my kids, you weren't claiming Wick City when we was going to Hyde Park either. On Tuga, your ass was claiming Killer Ward. Stop playing with me before I punch your dreads out your head. Color head.
And as the story goes, when FBG Duck and various other STL members found out King Von was hanging around the BDs in Parkway Gardens, they would jump King Von on the bus. Here's FBG Butter to further elaborate on this infamous incident.
I got kicked out of Hyde Park for whooping Von. Lil B scratch him out on the bus. Killer Ward and them getting that. No, Wayne get that man on Hottie. Beat him. Ooh, I get right on the bus. Duck get on Tuka. You about to beat him out. Get right on the bus. Take shirt off. Bam. Bam.
King Von would again reference this altercation on Don't Want to Be Me of LeVon James rapping.
High Park food fights in the lunchroom. Got jumped on the bus one time too.
And after moving to Parkway Gardens, Von would catch his first serious charge as a 16-year-old teenager for armed robbery and would serve a lengthy stint in juvenile prison. While locked up in juvie on December 5th, 2011, Dale Fisher, a STL member, was headed to a corner store near 62nd and St. Lawrence when a silver car drove by, rolled down the window, and multiple shots were fired towards Dale, hitting his chest, forearm, elbow, and lower back. Police records point to King Von's right-hand man, T-Roy, as the alleged shooter, alongside 600's very own D. Rose. But since the Chicago PD couldn't meet the burden of proof required to charge T-Roy with the murder, he would roam free. Tookaville members would voice their anger and grief at Dale's slaying, claiming that he wasn't even gangbanging and that he was an innocent teenage boy. And from here on out, the war between 63rd and Wick City would escalate to unprecedented heights.
somebody relate to him or somebody cool with him, you kill him. Not everybody that he was close with is trying to kill you. It's a never ending. Or they gonna let's get somebody close to him.
Right. Hey, how does that end? How y'all stop that?
It don't stop until everybody, all the people that playing the game is gone. You see what I'm saying? So it's the last man standing. It's either you gonna be in jail, you gonna die, or you getting lucky around the bitch.
After the passing of Dale, a bunch of blood would be spilled in the streets from the passing of Tuka and O.D. Perry, which led to the GDs on 63rd and the BDs on 64th to rename their gangs to Tookaville and O-Block as a sign to forever commemorate both Tuka and O.D. And on August the 8th, 2012, one day before King Von's 18th birthday, T-Roy, D-Rose, and Von himself were allegedly riding through enemy territory looking for ops, and that's when they would come across 28-year-old Jaro City and STL member Daddy Rail, formerly known as Terrell Joshua, on East 56th Street just before 3:30 a.m. Several shots would be unloaded towards Daddy Rail, hitting his body multiple times. He would be rushed to Stroger Hospital, where he would unfortunately pass away. And while mourning the loss of Daddy Rail would have been an option, Jaro City members were looking to retaliate, and said retaliation would come in the form of O-Block White, because on August the 8th, 2012, 20 hours after Daddy Rail was found fatally shot on East 56th Street at 11:39 p.m., 22-year-old William Darrell, a Jaro City member known as 50 Shots, was riding on his bike through East 63rd and South Martin Luther King Drive, where White, a bunch of O-Block members, and King Von were standing outside a convenience store, with 50 Shots unloading multiple shots towards the group, with one shot hitting White's back. 19-year-old Tony Dunn would be transported to Stroger Hospital, the same hospital Daddy Rail was rushed to 20 hours prior, and unfortunately, King Von would have to bring in his 18th birthday by dealing with the passing of White, as doctors would pronounce his passing at 12:30 a.m. Various O-Block members would mourn the loss of Whitey, and King Von would reference the situation on multiple occasions on Twitter, describing how he had bought Whitey a pill and they would later take his life, and he would confess how the slaying of Whitey had turned him into a demon.
If I tell you I love you, I mean it. When Whitey got killed, I seen it. Alright, I still can't believe it. Turned me. Hey, that man got killed on my birthday. That was so cool. Ain't that crazy? I just gave this man a pill. But shit like that, it happened, you know?
After losing his close friend Whitey, King Von would fully turn his attention to raging war in the streets of Chicago. And while he'd go through sleepless nights grieving his friend and expressing himself on Twitter, detailing the events that unfolded on the dreadful night where Whitey lost his life, Jaro City and STL-EBT members were celebrating the passing of Whitey. But it wouldn't be long before King Von would catch his first body, because on October the 13th, 2012, at 8:43 p.m, he would post this tweet: "Man, I'm bored, what's the plan?" And that tweet alone would unleash havoc onto the streets of Chicago, because 15 minutes after that tweet, King Von and T-Roy would find themselves on the 6344 block of South Rhodes Avenue, and they had their eyes set on Modell McCambry, who was standing on the porch talking to his cousin Miles Turner, when King Von would emerge and start unloading shots at the two boys, as witnesses claim. Modell and his cousin Miles would be struck by multiple shots, with Modell sustaining injuries to his upper chest, his lower right arm, and his right middle back. After seeing Modell get struck, his cousin Miles Turner would cover Modell and get his body in the crossfire. Miles would be hit in his upper and lower back. Von and T-Roy would flee the scene and head back to Parkway Gardens, while Miles and Modell would be transported to Stroger Hospital and Northwestern Hospital. Miles would fortunately survive this dreadful attack on his life, but his injuries were so severe he would end up paralyzed and would have to use a wheelchair from that day forth. But in Modell's case, he had unfortunately succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced deceased at 10:21 p.m. And as soon as King Von would get back home, he would boldly lay out a question to his ops, asking, "Who died?" And while King Von was posted up in O-Block, disrespectfully taunting the GDs following the passing of Modell McCambry, back outside, the streets of Chicago were in a frenzy, and STL members would drive to Parkway Gardens, pull out their firearms, and start indiscriminately firing towards anybody standing on the premises of Parkway, hoping to hit somebody in an effort to retaliate for the tragic incident Modell succumbed to. Chicago PD would arrest 2 shooters in that incident, and while Tookaville members would mourn Modell's passing, they would claim Modell wasn't even a GD, and he was an innocent teenager caught in the gang war between 63rd and O-Block.
I killed Dale, Modell. Shorty them ain't even gangbang for real. And there ain't no disrespect to them because they died because of that we had going on. So it ain't no disrespect to Dale and Modell or they people. But it's an Really thinking about like, oh damn, I can keep naming motherfuckers. Motherfuckers be like, damn, oh damn, butter, y'all ain't claiming y'all did. Nah, we not 600. We ain't doing what, oh yeah, just because he died and he was a goofy wing. Nah, I'll show he died because of our war. He was a casualty he took. Well, we caused.
It wouldn't stop King Von from taunting Modell's passing on his Twitter page, and at around this time, King Von and T-Roy's name would be synonymous in the gang-ridden streets of Chicago, with a woman who resided in Parkway warning T-Roy and Von to stop taking pictures together in the fear that the GDs over on 63rd would rat them out to the Chicago PD due to their infamous reputation as drillers in the rack. With all that said and done, on October the 29th, King Von would boldly tweet his reluctance to hang around T-Roy because he had more bodies than him, and he would vow to even the score by Friday. And on October the 30th, tragedy would strike the streets of Chicago once more, because in the early hours of that morning, paramedics and the Chicago PD would rush to the 6200 block of South Eberhard Avenue as 23-year-old Derek Johnson, a Jaro City member known as Craig, would be rushed to Stroger Hospital and was unfortunately pronounced deceased at 9:54 a.m. And moments following that incident on South Eberhard, King Von would take to Twitter and ask his followers how many halos they could take to their face before they would crack, a direct diss to Jaro City member Craig. And later that night, he would tweet about how Modell and Craig lost their lives in October and we should stay tuned to see who will be next to bite the dust in November, as if residents of Chicago were tuning into the Squid Games. But this wasn't a multi-million-dollar budget series, it was real life for the young men losing their lives at the hands of gang violence in Chicago. Fuck this gang banging shit. I'm trying to make it in real life. That's a tweet by Tookaville gang member Boss Trail. It seems as if the gang life had taken a toll on him, and word on the street was he was planning on moving away from the gang-infested streets of Chicago and get a fresh started life elsewhere. 2 days before his departure from Chicago, Boss Trail paid his girlfriend a visit on Marycrest, 7 miles away from 63rd and St. Lawrence. On November the 8th, 2012, T-Roy and King Von would tweet about rolling hard at 1 a.m. in the morning, and at 6 a.m., Boss Trail would have breakfast with his girlfriend. He'd then leave the house to go sell 2 bicycles at a nearby pawn shop, and as he walks past an alley, King Von and T-Roy would allegedly approach and unload multiple shots at Boss Trail, hitting the back of his head. He would be transported to a hospital and would stay in critical condition for hours, fighting for his life. FBG Cash would pay him a visit and post this picture on Twitter, saying he can't let go. And while Boss Trail kept fighting for his life, back on 64th, ops were growing impatient as they were hoping Boss Trail would die. King Von and T-Roy expressed their frustrations on Twitter, tweeting, "Ops went dying on time." But unfortunately, at 11:45 p.m., Boss Trail would succumb to his injuries. King Von would post this disrespectful tweet after hearing the news of Boss Trail's death.
Like he called Trail, some goofy was on my podcast telling me he ain't boy on God on OD Soul. Boss Trail is folks' work. Like, stop that. Like, that was folks' work. He did that before he even went to school.
This would be a devastating loss for Tookaville, and Lil B took to Facebook vowing to avenge his friend. But he would have to wait 10 months. It's May the 29th, 2014. King Von and Big Mike are on their way to CJ's house on the 5700 block of South LaSalle Street to celebrate CJ's birthday, a good friend of Von. They are driven by Jasmine Michelle in her 2-door grey Alero, and once they arrive at the party, Von is standing on the front porch talking to CJ, mugging a man from the opposing gang named Carpenter. Moments later, Malcolm Stuckey walks in, who is a friend to Von's op, Carpenter, and just like that, Von took off. While leaving the party, CJ's mother, Miss Jones, would plead with Von not to start a mess in her house, with Von replying that he wasn't on that type of timing. He lied. Big Mike, Jasma, and King Von would get back into the car and drive to Parkway Gardens to grab some firearms. And after 10 minutes, they would get back into the Alero with Jasmine and head back to the party on 57th and South LaSalle. King Von would make a phone call telling a partygoer to take the kids inside. They would park the Alero a block away from LaSalle Street, and as Jasma stayed in the car, Von and Big Mike would cut through an alley behind the house. And as soon as Carpenter and Stuckey saw King Von running towards them, they would start running in the opposite direction. As Von shouted, "Why are you running?" A barrage of shots would be fired towards the man as Big Mike hit one man in the foot and Von hit another man in the face, breaking his jaw. They would run after Malcolm Stuckey and fire multiple shots at him and then flee the scene, running back to that Alero and driving home to Parkway Gardens. The 2 victims who were hit in the foot and jaw would fortunately survive this incident. But as for Malcolm Stuckey, who would succumb to his injuries at the scene at approximately 6:09 p.m. On April the 11th, as KI, FBG Butter, and a couple of other guys were getting ready to shoot dice on the sidewalk of 65th and Eberhard, King Von, T-Roy and Big A would jump out of a car armed with guns and chase the Tookaville members. Von would allegedly fire 3 shots, hitting FBG Barra's knee, a 34-year-old man's foot, and 1 shot hitting Jakaira's hip as he yelled, "Yeah, bitch." He would eventually catch up to KI as a witness testified to seeing King Von stand over KI and fire multiple more shots hitting KI's front armpit, chest, bicep, left cheek, and left ear.
I see Butter on the phone sitting on one porch, and KI and them and Cray Cray, they was in the gangway shooting dice. They emerged out the cut. I see Butter running. Butter hop over the fence, running. And I grabbed Butter. Butter whole kneecap was blew off, bro.
And did you hear the gunshots and everything going on?
Oh yeah, they sound like something special. They was boom, boom, like the police trying to lock up Duck. They told Duck he responsible for it. They just left KI on the ground. So I went over there by KI. Smoke was coming out her neck, man. It was all sad, bro. I'm standing over telling her to be all right, kneeling down over there. But when she got in the ambulance, she was gone, man.
And then Von walked up to me, and I shook his hand. He like, look straight. Why you telling me to look straight? He like, look straight, and what I'm finna say to you, don't look at me after I tell you. But he literally say just like this, you know, why I just ran up on them and caught KI. She was the last one running out of the gate.
Witnesses who testified would name Davon Bennett as the responsible shooter, and Chicago PD would arrest him for first-degree murder on April the 29th. King Von would tweet they should never free him, but a couple of weeks later, Chicago PD would have to let him go because they believed they didn't meet the burden of proof required to take King Von to trial. And after he got out, A&E Network would release a full-length documentary detailing the life and death of Jakaira Barnes, where they featured the same guy who allegedly took Jakaira's life. And after walking out of the Chicago PD's custody for Jakaira Barnes' first-degree murder charge, a slew of tweets from the PDs such as Lil Reese and Boss Top would applaud King Von for drilling KI. King Von himself would express how much he missed Jakaira, his eternal hatred for 63rd, and how he's consistently drilling ops. On June the 7th, 2014, King Von would get booked on parole violation and was in the custody of the Illinois Department of Corrections. But on July the 22nd, King Von, along with Big Mike, would be charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and first-degree stemming from that incident on LaSalle Street that claimed Malcolm Stuckey's life. And as we all now know, he'd be stuck behind prison for 2.5 years, refusing to cooperate with the police in that case. But while he was locked up, back in the grimy streets of Chicago, King Von's best friend, T-Roy, would lose his life. Because on Valentine's Day, February the 14th, 2017, James T-Roy Johnson walked into a store on the 2000 block of East 71st Street when Ken Getright, TB, and another man approached him, and TB from Taekwon World would unload 1 shot hitting T-Roy's chest, and they would flee the scene. Surveillance footage for this whole incident was captured by CCTV, and once Northwestern Memorial Hospital pronounced T-Roy as late, a dark cloud of sorrow would engulf Vaughn and the BDs on O Block as Wick City had to come to terms with losing one of their most prolific shooters. And as the news of T-Roy's passing spread around the city, FBG Duck and Wooski would take to IG Live to diss T-Roy and the BDs on O Block.
Damn, they on here talking about what you think about T-Roy getting popped. Damn, T-Roy got popped? When that happened? Damn, somebody popped him. Is he dead? Is he dead? Did he die? Damn, merchant, they popped T-Roy. It must don't be, it must ain't that important. It ain't all over the internet.
Tell T-Roy to watch who he running up on for them grade. My boys don't play no games, boy.
No games. Chat shot.
What's with them? And he got, I heard T-Roy had a nice glizzy on the where he got his ass. It's Black Gang.
And after almost a decade of this tit-for-tat killings in the streets and the dissing of dead ops on songs, FBG Duck would drop his disrespectful song, Dead Bitch, where he goes on to diss T-Roy and O.D. Perry, referencing J Money's demise where he was shot in the face, and alludes to his desire to piss on D-Thang's grave. And nearly a month after the music video for Dead Bitch dropped, on August the 4th, 2020, THF-TZ spots FBG Duck on Oak Street and calls Black Disciples from O Block. Muwab, who had close ties to J Money, hops into the car. C-Murder, Sheroyd Liggins' older brother, tags along as well. Duck would repeatedly mention how Sheroyd Liggins was probably killed while he was listening to his iPod back in 2014. Zelmona, who was cousins with T-Roy, jumps in as well. C-Thang, Kenny Mac, and Los would all tag along, and with all the O-Block and 600 members that had lost their lives at the hands of Tookaville drillers, these gangbangers were on a mission to take out one of the biggest GDs in the city and potentially split $100,000 as compensation for a job well done.
It wasn't a factor to him. They wanted my son gone. They saying he was shot 3 times, Vlad. He was shot over 20 times. Still trying to get off that ground. Still fighting for his life.
4 a.m. November the 6th, downtown Atlanta. 4 O-Block members are trailing behind King Von as he walks towards Quando Rondo and starts assaulting him. Lil Tim jumps out, aims a pistol towards King Von and strikes him 3 times. Davon Bennett would tragically lose his life at the age of 26.
Yeah, Rick and Sean, according to GBI, rapper King Von and his group were at Opium nightclub before making their way here to Monaco Hookah Lounge, then to the parking lot where chaos ensued.